The dinosaurs didn't conquer the Earth. They just survived a 2 million-year storm that drowned the animals that were actually supposed to. Go to a window right now. Watch a pigeon on the pavement or a dog sleeping on a rug. You are looking at the distant heirs of a world that fractured 232 million years ago. At that exact point in time, during the early late Triassic, dinosaurs made up roughly 5% of the animal tracks found by paleontologists. They were small, marginal hunters running on two legs and hiding in the shadows of dominant reptilian empires. The planet belonged to rhynchosaurs, squat, powerful herbivores with beak-like jaws that sliced through tough desert seed ferns. The rivers belonged to phytosaurs, giant armored ambush predators that resembled modern crocodiles but shared no direct lineage. These established ecosystems were adapted to the bone-dry interior of a single giant supercontinent called Pangea. They were highly specialized biological machines, precisely engineered for a dry reality that was about to vanish. Then, the crust tore open. In an ocean basin near what we now call Western Canada, a volcanic plateau known as the Wrangellia terrain fractured. Fissures pumped millions of tons of carbon dioxide and sulfur directly into the sky over thousands of years. The global temperature spiked by several degrees. This heated the oceans, accelerating evaporation until the upper atmosphere choked with moisture. The arid supercontinent absorbed the initial shock. And then, the sky broke. Conclusive evidence from rock layers worldwide shows a period of heavy, continuous rain began across Pangea. It did not stop for 2 million years. Geologists call this anomaly the Carnian Pluvial episode. Flash floods washed away the thin topsoil. Rivers swelled and stripped the landscape, turning deserts into humid, impassable swamps. The dominant rhynchosaurs, built for grinding arid ground cover, starved as unfamiliar rainforests, and new plant types replaced their only food sources. Their specialized bodies became biological traps. Populations collapsed, and entire evolutionary dynasties vanished into the deep mud. But the rising water did not kill everything. In the rotting, flooded margins of this hothouse world, a handful of agile, fast-growing outsiders found an empty stage. They had hollow bones, which made them light. They ran on two legs, keeping them above the thick muck. They thrived in the wet. They were the early dinosaurs. You probably picture mass extinctions as sudden, explosive impacts from space. An asteroid strikes the Yucatan Peninsula. The sky turns to ash, and the ruling class burns in a single afternoon. We are conditioned to view evolution as a series of sudden, cinematic resets. But the Carnian Pluvial episode dismantled life at an agonizing crawl. The Triassic die-off was not a catastrophic day. It was a slow, inescapable atmospheric shift that suffocated ecosystems over 10,000 generations. Animals did not look up and see a fireball. They simply watched their local rivers break their banks season after season, century after century. The dry plains they evolved to hunt on dissolved into deep mud, and the specialized adaptations that kept them alive became the exact weights that pulled them under. To understand how a storm rewrites biology, look at the first true mammals. Before the clouds broke, our earliest ancestors, the Cynodonts, were struggling. The arid supercontinent heavily favored the existing dynasties of thick-scaled reptiles. But as the Wrangellia eruptions pumped millions of cubic kilometers of basalt across the ocean floor, the global chemistry fractured. The mechanism works like a thermal engine. Immense volumes of carbon dioxide trapped solar heat. The oceans steadily warmed, generating massive, unrelenting evaporation across the entire hemisphere. This dense moisture collided with the landmass of Pangea, triggering global megamonsoons. Many scientists argue volcanic carbon alone could not sustain a 2-million-year storm, pointing instead to the Cimmerian orogeny, a tectonic collision that built a mountain range across Pangea, physically blocking air currents and forcing continuous precipitation. Regardless of the trigger, the carbon cycle snapped. The excess carbon dissolved into the oceans, acidifying the water and wiping out ancient reef systems. On land, the constant humidity wiped out the tough, drought-resistant seed ferns. Tall, broad-leafed conifers and soft ferns rapidly replaced them. The dominant rhynchosaurs entirely lacked the specialized gut bacteria required to digest these new plants, and they starved in fields of green. The apex predators that hunted them collapsed immediately after. When the base of a food web rots, the entire superstructure falls. Small, warm-blooded cynodonts possessed complex teeth that could chew insects and soft vegetation. They scavenged through the wet underbrush while the giants perished. The universal principle of extinction is clear. Specialized biology is a death sentence during a rapid environmental shift. The animals that inherit the Earth are always the generalists, surviving because they can process the garbage left behind by a broken world. But if that model holds, a glaring problem emerges from the fossil record. If generalized, warm-blooded cynodonts and agile dinosaurs perfectly adapted to this wet reality, they should have shared the resulting planet equally. But they didn't. When the Carnian Pluvial episode finally concluded, the dinosaurs exploded in size. They seized the globe for the next 160 million years. Our mammalian ancestors remained tiny, nocturnal scavengers hiding in burrows. If the storm leveled the playing field, why did the water hand the dinosaurs an empire, but give mammals a life sentence in the shadows? The answer overturns how we view the entire event. We stated earlier that the rain created a lush, stable greenhouse that drowned the old deserts. Actually, the storm did not create a permanent rainforest at all. Core samples reveal the true nature of the Carnian Pluvial episode. It was a volatile sequence of 4 distinct pulses of hyper-rain, separated by flashes of scorching drought. The environment whipped wildly between flooded swamps and baked earth. Dinosaurs possessed a unique biological weapon that our ancestors lacked, an advanced bird-like respiratory system with specialized air sacs. When the flash droughts returned, the standing water vanished, and oxygen levels dropped, the dinosaurs could sprint, hunt, and breathe in the thin, hot air. The mammals simply choked. They retreated into the cool soil, forced underground by animals that could breathe efficiently in a fractured world. The Carnian Pluvial episode ended just as quietly as it began. The volcanic fissures of the Wrangellia terrain finally choked and sealed beneath the ocean floor. The planetary carbon cycle stabilized, pulling the excess heat from the atmosphere. The torrential megamonsoons finally stopped, and the landmass of Pangea dried out. But the biological damage was permanent. When the Earth baked solid again, the ancient crocodilian phytosaurs and the heavy beak-jawed rhynchosaurs were extinct. The nimble, air sac-equipped dinosaurs marched out of the mud to claim an empty supercontinent. They held that throne for exactly 160 million years. Our cynodont ancestors stayed small. They grew fur, developed complex nervous systems, and learned to nurse their infant young in the dark. They waited out the entire reign of the dinosaurs, survived the asteroid impact, and eventually walked into the daylight as the diverse modern mammals we recognize today. The legacy of that storm surrounds you right now. Every bird in the sky carries the lightweight bones and specialized respiratory efficiency that allowed its ancestors to sprint through the Triassic flash droughts. The towering coniferous forests, forced to evolve by the constant humidity, still blanket the northern hemisphere today. Even the amber resin that preserves ancient insects was a biological response from early trees, protecting themselves from fungal rot in a saturated world. We spend immense energy looking up at the night sky, waiting for the next mass extinction to fall from the stars. We build computational models to track near-Earth asteroids. We assume the forces that dictate planetary life are always cosmic and immediate. We constantly imagine destruction as a sudden, violent intrusion from the outside. We forget that the system itself can turn against us. The Triassic die-off proves an environment does not need to explode to tear an ecosystem apart. It only needs to change, and refuse to change back. We didn't inherit the Earth because we were the strongest animals in the Triassic period. We inherited it because our ancestors were small enough to hide while a 2-million-year rainstorm drowned the giants. The deepest biological resets do not arrive in a blinding flash of light. They just build up in the atmosphere, gather over the ocean, and begin to fall.